everyone? Exactly. Oh yeah, sorry. Perfect. All right, thanks guys. So I'm Ellie, for anyone who doesn't know, the owner of the Pantry Underwear. So we have this store and one in Islington. And this is Katie and Beth. Katie's going to introduce us properly, but I just wanted to thank everyone for coming because obviously you've come to my joint, which is great. And it's just so lovely to see so many of you. This is actually our first event post-COVID in person, which is massive. So I was really excited for the last 3 weeks and now I'm terrified.
We have this, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a whole bottle behind us, so we'll be fine.
Okay, so I'm Katie from KUCO. We run a comms agency in Cambridge. We do social media, PR for Cambridge, London, mainly kind of restaurants, experiences, venues, and anywhere that deals with customers, people like you. So I'm going to just be running the event in terms of asking the questions, but I'm going to let these guys chat as much as they can. And if you have questions, just raise your hand. If someone's got a really good follow-up question, it's going to be better than mine. So just put it up and I'll try and bring you in. So this is Ellie from the Pantry. This is her joint, like she said. And this is Beth from...
Hi. So I'm from Iris and Violet, so my shop's literally just the other side of the Market Square on St Mary's Passage. So I opened there almost 2 years ago, but I've also got another shop in Stamford, which I opened 4 years ago. So yeah, we've also got an online website as well. So yeah, I've got the 2 stores, which can be busy, it's just full on, but yeah, lots of fun, and you know, I enjoy it. So yeah, all good.
Okay, so let's kick off. This event is called How to Start a Brand, but I thought a good question to start with is, did you even intend to start a brand, or were you trying to solve a problem? Beth, do you want to start?
So yeah, mine was definitely solve a problem. So I lived in London for 8-9 years, and then we moved back to towards Stamford, and I just felt like there was a gap in the market for an independent shop that was affordable. I felt like there's so many independent shops which are amazing but really expensive. You go in and the dress is £300-400, and like for me at the time that was, you know, way out of my price range. You know, I'd love to go in and browse, but I could never afford to spend in there. So I wanted to open an independent like lifestyle kind of shop that, you know, we could, you know, anyone could come in and shop with us, you know, come in and buy, you know, a pair of earrings for £15 or a dress, but we also sell like homeware. So yeah, it was just a kind of a gap in the market that I saw, and then it was just kind of waiting for the right unit to come up, I guess. Which actually happened way quicker than I was expecting. So yeah, basically we agreed on it, and I was like, oh God, now what am I going to do? I need to actually find the money to do this. Which
we'll follow up on that.
Yeah, we'll follow up on that.
We'll definitely get some money.
Yeah.
Ellie, what about you?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of similar. It was less like geo-specific for me. I worked in an underwear shop, actually in Cambridge, ironically, when I was at sixth form, and loved the kind of service aspect, like thing about transforming somebody's view of a product, because we can all think of a really bad bra fitting we've had, but we probably can't think of a really good one. And that's, we still see that every single day in our stores. So I was just like literally walking to work in a completely different industry one day, and I passed a shop and I was already thinking like maybe I'd want to do something for myself. And then I thought, you know, what would I want to do? And I took myself back to that point where I was a bra fitter. I was like, actually, that was so rewarding. And then I thought, I haven't bought a bra since then. And that was like 12 years before. Because I was like, well, there's nowhere that I'd want to go. Like in the UK, Marks and Spencer's have like 95% of the market. And if anything, they're paring back in terms of how often they have bra fitters available, you know, what kind of
appointment.
You can't get an appointment, you know, you can't just walk in and someone will help you who's an expert on fit and all of the products around them. So I was like, there's just a massive gap in the market in general, and you know, we're at a really interesting point where this shop has been a trial for us, and we've already had a separate concession in Liberty. We've had a shop in a market town, and we've obviously got the original shop in Islington. But actually we're finding we're reaching more people through our virtual fitting service, because, you know, provided you've got the kind of right marketing approach, you're then hitting as many households as possible. And I just feel like we're transforming something that every woman dreads. it's not just like thinking about what Cambridge needs or what Islington needs. It's like, what does a whole British bra-wearing community need?
Yeah, so it's you're trying to meet a need for something that you've experienced. You can feel like the market is there. How did you identify that this was a broader need? Did you commission any surveys? Did you ask your friends? A lot of people who are trying to start a brand, they don't actually have necessarily the research to back up their idea. How did you get that confidence that it was definitely right? Did you do any wider research?
Lots of shopping, I guess.
Yeah.
Lots of shopping, lots of comp shopping. Just going out and looking at, I don't know, what I thought some indies were doing well, some that weren't, and just kind of just going on all the good points. And but yeah, I think it is a risk, and you just have to have that feeling, and you have to be optimistic that you've got a good idea and you've got a customer for it.
Sometimes people feel like they need that research if they need to approach an investor.
Yeah.
And I think the money side, this comes in then, in a way, if you can justify your idea with the finances, you can go for it. But a lot of people need to make a business plan and explain to the bank why they've done the research. Have you got any experience of that in terms of the money? What approach did you take? Did you throw everything at it personally, and did you have to do some of that research to?
Yeah, well, I just got married and we just bought a house, so I had limited, basically no savings left. So for me it was trying to get a business loan, which actually my one piece of advice would be to find a really good accountant, because they have relationships with bank managers that or certain banks that they think might specialize in certain areas that are more likely to give you the money that you need, but also as well the one that my accountant, they go through your business plan with you and look at your all the extra info that you need to give, like profit and loss, and I'd never done anything like that before, so some of my figures that I put on there were just plucked out of thin air. So it was nice to chat it through with an accountant before you actually go and see a bank manager and get scrutinized over every single figure.
Sounds scary though, right? Did you have the same experience? Or
I think this very similar in terms of our initial finance was from a bank loan. I mean, I just went to my personal bank, just was do HSBC do bank, business bank loans, and I definitely didn't get grilled, and I didn't get a lot of help.
Everyone Googled HSBC.
It was quite easy, to be completely frank, that I was right at the top end of what is, I now realise, a completely unrealistic sum to start a business, particularly in London. So I borrowed 25,000 at the start of a small business loan.
I
at the
literally
time
borrowed 25.
And that was because the small business loan was marketed as 5 to 25, and I thought, well, I'll go for 25. and then I made everything in my business plan fit 25. But of course, in reality, it never plays out like that. And you need to have a buffer, and there's all these things that you learn along the way. And obviously, to be honest, ignorance is a really great thing when you start out. So I don't know why you're not starting something, just go into it totally blind, because you grow that skin and that you learn when you're on the road. But I do think that, well, obviously both Beth and I didn't go out and seek investment, and the benefit of investment, there are many benefits of investment. I haven't had any investment. So is that obviously you're not instantly obliged to pay it back with interest. And often those people have a vested interest in your business because they've invested in it, whereas HSBC could not give two shits about they do not care. But this is, I would never have had the balls to even think about investment, because that word still terrifies me 7 years into my business. Even though probably if I ever wanted to take it to the level that I think it should go, I will have to look at that as an option. We're going to get to the level it should go. But what's so interesting though is that we've both followed that same path of Googling, starting up a business and then getting a business loan, and there is not enough education out there for people who are aspiring entrepreneurs about how to seek investment in the right way. I just would not have had the confidence to do that.
So would you say that you were, before you did a business, numbers people? Did you have a grasp of numbers? Were you confident with numbers? And if not, do you think people can start a business if they're not numbers minded?
I had limited numbers, so I was a fashion buyer before, so I had a little bit experience in numbers, but basically just from numbers that my merchandiser would be like, okay, this is the amount that you've got to spend, you know, for this timing. So I'd be like, okay, great, what are we going to buy
We're
then?
doing that up.
Whereas, you know, when you're spending your own money, it's like, it's much more scary. And, you know, you don't want to make a bad decision, and, you know, it does always happen, but yeah, I mean, you know, there's so much help that you can get out there as well for numbers. There's so much online, and again, accountants, that's what they're for.
Yeah, I'm really jealous that all this chat about how great your accountant is.
Everyone wants a good accountant.
We had
so
a
really handing out
first
business
partnership
cards.
like meeting, like marketing call, and I literally asked Beth for a recommendation for an accountant. Not because I don't appreciate mine, but it's
Not here.
You might watch this. He's really good at the strategic points, but not the kind of sitting down and looking at the numbers, and that is actually something that, particularly when you're in the early throes, you really do need to have a grasp on. Like, you need to know how much you need to make in a day to survive, and then how much you need to make in a day to grow. One thing I had no idea about was margin, and margin is so important because that's basically what you use to, you know, just paying for the cost price of an item makes you nothing, and then you can't operate. So that it's about understanding all of the different portions of every product that you sell and where that's going. And I just had complete ignorance. And actually, interestingly, I don't know if this is the case for your brands, but I had made some friends in our first like little independent street where we had our first underwear shop, who sold women's wear, and the standard women's wear margin at that point, or markup, was times 2.7 or 7.5 of the cost price, and my standard markup was like 2.1, and that turns out to be an underwear thing.
Oh, okay.
So because it's such a risky product in the whole big picture, because it's got so many SKUs, so you've got like 30 sizes, not like a size 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Nobody wants to take risk right from the factory all the way to the retailer, so there's just not a lot of margin to play with. So actually that's why you don't see loads of multiple store successful independent underwear stores. They're generally either Rigby and Pella are very expensive with a kind of around 10 store base, or Marks and Spencer's where they're manufacturing millions of bras every year.
But did you have an experience of clothing, sizing, retail in your past life? Or was this a new, like, I think this really is a different world, just like hospitality, retail, they're a sector. Did you work in this sector before? Was this something that you were aware of or not?
So yeah, I was a fashion buyer, so I started out at River Island, so I did 4 years there, and then I moved to a startup brand. So it was quite good to go from like an established retailer to a startup where there was literally just 6 of us. I actually really enjoyed that because it was just so much more involved, you know, so much more about the business and so much more hands-on. So yeah, between like both of those jobs, I worked in like quite a lot of like different departments. So I did jersey, I did wovens, I did knitwear. So I had like quite a good and like product knowledge. So when I was coming to buying for the shop, I could, you know, look at the fabrics and think, okay, yeah, definitely not buying that, you know, that doesn't feel nice, or yeah, they're charging way too much for that. But so yeah, kind of that definitely helped.
I feel like yours is a slightly different angle, and you were in the marketing angle, right?
Yeah. So I was in the music industry and publishing before I started the business. But obviously, I said at the beginning, one of my first weekend jobs was as a bra fitter, and that just really stuck with me. Anyone who's been a bra fitter, there's a couple in this room wonderful girls who work for me, will know that it changes your experience of like just having a retail job, right? It's different. Like it's just different. It's much more intimate, and you have to know so much more and learn so much more. And you know, even if the shop is a bit quieter than Ramina used to work in Zara and Tara used to work in Nando's, like it is a lot quieter, we can admit it. It can be just as intense, because the way that you have to deal with people, you have to change your approach for every individual human that comes in, especially if they trust you to go in the changing room and take their top off. So yeah, it stuck with me, and you know, obviously my marketing experience from the other industries kind of now plays into how I approach the business and the brand.
Mix, isn't it? So
Yeah.
like now that you've got your head in the business, and sometimes it's difficult to look outwards, where do you go for inspiration? Do you research? Do you go to other stores? Do you just drink a lot of wine and look on Google?
Lots of
your
wine.
tactics for inspiration?
Lots of wine.
All the wine.
Yeah, all the wine. But also as well, like I can't go and visit an area without Googling like what independents are there. Like I literally love it. I love going and see what everyone else is doing, what brands they're stocking. Me and Beth are always like on social media, looking at like other indies, like you know what content they're posting. But also like just inspiration like shopping. So I just went to Copenhagen a few weeks ago just to have a look at the stores out there, like how they're visual merchandising everything to get ideas, and it's good because sometimes it gives you loads of ideas, but actually at the same time it can be like, oh, actually no, we are like
Doing really well.
we're doing, the shop looks really nice in comparison to some of these amazing Scandi brands. So but yeah, it's nice to get out there and because it's so easy to kind of just get confined into the business, like in the shop every day doing the admin. So it is so important to like get out there and just see what everyone else is doing as well.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. I like listening to podcasts. So I do a lot of driving between London and Cambridge, literally ferrying stock, customer orders. This is the other thing about having loads of different sizes, constantly you're pulling things. Some of my customers are here, so they know. They'll have had much stock pulled across from the other stores to one to the other.
We can totally relate to this.
Yeah,
We're always like web orders being split, so we're bringing stock over here, packaging it up together to send out, and
Exactly.
just constant.
So sitting in the car, just like listening to a podcast. I really like How I Built This by Guy Raz for like the bigger picture stuff. I also enjoy Conversations of Inspiration, which is by Holly. Oh my god, I can't remember her name. She was the founder of Not on the High Street, and now has Holly and Co.
Yeah.
Anyway, she has really good guests. So some really interesting brands on there, like the founder of Lush and I don't know if there are any mums in here, but there's a really famous app called Peanut. It's a really clever concept. It's a bit like social media kind of internet dating, but for mums. She came up with that, and it was just her story is so interesting, and that just kind of enables me to. I find it very difficult to make time to take trips and things. I've got quite a young son, so that's like my one place behind the wheel on my Todd, where that listening to someone else's story transports me to like, okay, I could go and do that, or I could go and do that, or oh, that's interesting that they did it that way. I find it really helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got your inspiration from your podcast, you've listened to lots of wine, you've drank lots of wine, listened to them, you've driven around, you've got an idea.
Drinking all the wine before I listen to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. The wine idea came from something I read in an interview from you, where you were like, you just drank a lot of wine. It's got me through.
I mentioned something else in that interview, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Nothing illegal. and my mum enters wine.
But what if an idea you have isn't working? Have you had a kind of juncture in your business pathway where you've had to take a step back and go, actually, this hasn't worked, I need to change tack? Let's talk about those kinds of challenges, because it's not a straight road. Do you have other people who are going to say, do you know what, Beth, this is probably not the right idea? Or do you have pushback? Do you collaborate?
I think like for us, the good thing is like we buy small units, so we never all the big retailers, they buy so much stock, so for them it's so hard to change direction quickly, whereas like an independent, we buy so little units that actually if something's not working we can get out of it quite quickly. But also like the other issue is that we have like when I first opened in Stamford, there was no one like doing anything similar to us, but 4 years along the line, 4 or 5 shops have opened up recently that not doing like similar homeware, doing similar homeware, similar brands, similar price points. So you're having to always be ahead of them, and showing your customers that you know, you still have the best products in, the best price, and you know, you offer the best customer service. So yeah, one of our things was homeware. So when we first started selling homeware, there was no shops in Stamford that had like, you know, homeware like us, but yeah, there's now 4 shops selling similar homeware. So that's something that we've kind of just stepped back from, that we don't really sell as much.
You probably feature in their business plan, right?
Yeah.
They probably went to the bank and you were
Yeah.
probably,
Literally,
you were
look at
probably
the
there
successful
and
shop. Yeah.
Exactly. And that brings me on to the topic of delegation. It's a challenge. I read something that you wrote, Ellie, which said in an interview that success for you looks like being able to step away and have time where you're not involved in the business, which is every business owner's kind of catch-22 but also dream. Are you achieving that sometimes one day a week?
Definitely.
Half a day a week?
No, having a child, God,
Yeah.
makes me emotional even thinking. It forces you to realise that there are other things that matter. Sorry, can you go on?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate. I've also got a 2.5-year-old, and yeah, so it definitely puts things into perspective. And like yesterday, I had a day off with her midweek, which doesn't happen that often. But yeah, it's nice just sometimes to just, you know, you're so busy with them that you know you haven't got time to be checking your phone. But also as well, you know, if you've got a great team, you know that they're capable of, you know, getting on with it, and you know that they're going to do a good job. So you have
And it's good for them as well, for you to step away and trust them to run the ship.
Yeah.
As hard as it might be sometimes, it's like it sets the right tone. You know, you should be able to say, "Don't contact me."
I think I had one trip away when I'd first just opened the shop in Cambridge, and it had been a really intense few months. And I said to Beth, and like, I just can't talk to anyone next week when I'm away. I really need to switch off. And I don't think I had, you know, I'm still like checking in. I'm always like checking in, like, what sales have we taken today? Like, but yeah, I think it is so important to have time out, and it makes you feel so much better when you come away from it. Like you just feel so much fresher, and you know you can think straight.
I think, you know, the same with your team needing you to be able to step away. You know, your kids will see, you know, you're doing this. I've got 3 and I'm a lot further on in that journey than you, and I had to do the small kid thing as well when I was working a lot. And actually their perspective when they can reflect on it with you is very much like, you know, oh, these exciting things that you do, I want to one day do those things, you know? They see all the dynamics of your personality.
And there are so many benefits, just, you know, for the room, to having your own business and having a child. You know, if I want to go and see his first haircut with his dad, who barely works from home, at 12 p.m. on a Friday, then I can. And that's my decision. And you do buy yourself that, even though you're working God knows how many hundreds of hours a week, feels sometimes, you do buy yourself that, I suppose, for want of a better word, luxury and freedom to be able to kind of command when you need to be somewhere. And when you work for someone else, it's kind of different now. The world is a different place to when the last time that I worked for someone else. And I hope that I have moved on with the world in the way that I treat the people that work for me. But it's not the same. You know, it's not the same as saying, right guys, today I need to be here, whatever. You can't necessarily just say to your boss, right, sorry, you can't open the shop because I need to be here. You know, it's completely different.
And you know, that leads me into my next question, which was, you know, this is, in some ways we had discussed this being, you know, a kind of female founder story, but ultimately the problem is that when we have these types of panel discussions or interviews, male founders aren't often asked questions about work-life balance, right? And I don't like to be like, so how do you manage to juggle it all? Because are men being asked the same question in these meetings? And so I think it's that tension between this having this very unique insight, which does change the way that you deal with staff, with the sense that this cannot be the story that we're always telling. How do you feel about asking and framing those questions? I know that you've tried to work with female founded businesses as well. Is this something that you feel comfortable discussing, or is there a little bit of a dichotomy in that?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's no shame in championing, you know, brands and companies that, you know, share your values and and also share your experiences. To be honest, like I get a lot of support from the brands that I stock because they're small businesses run by women with small children. So if I'm like, how are you coping? And I'm not coping, it makes me feel a lot better. And they say, you know, oh my God, I don't know how you're doing it. Your Instagram looks great or whatever. And it just makes you feel like you've really achieved something because it comes from that person that you know is also working their tits off to just keep going every day. And that's that sense of community with those, you know, individuals who are in a similar boat is really powerful.
Definitely, yeah. It's just chatting to other people that are in similar situation. I remember when I just had Edie, and I found it really difficult going to like mums groups where there was just mums there, you know, on maternity leave, and I was literally like fitting a quick, you know, baby sensory hour in around work, picking her up from my mum and dad's, going for a quick class and then dropping her off again. And I found it really difficult to like relate to other mums in a way. So it's nice to like chat to other mums who are business owners who are in like similar scenario, because it makes you just feel a bit better about things.
I think, you know, we've moved almost past the sort of the business and the family side. Is there anyone at this point that wants to ask any questions before we move on to kind of the next phase of questions? Anyone got any points or questions they want to raise? All good?
Just did you go straight into having stores, or did you start online? I think you started in store.
Yeah, in stores. So I was planning on, you know, having the first, so I'd only had the shop open for 9 months before we went into the pandemic. So I literally was like, went into lockdown. I was like, oh my God, I've literally got to get a website up and running ASAP. So I think I worked on it for 7 days, like 18 hours a day, get all the stock on there and launched it. But actually, in a way, it was kind of, it was good because the shop was shut, and it meant that I had the time to work out how the process of running the website, linking the stock from the shop onto the website was going to work, because that was the kind of minefield was, you know, how when you sell something in the shop, can you take it off, you know, off the website? So yeah, it kind of gave me the time to work on that.
Yeah, we were stores,
Right.
and then we went online about 6 months later, did nothing online, like a pittance, and then COVID happened. We launched bra fittings within 3 weeks, got virtual bra fittings, like literally, when it started, we did it on FaceTime or WhatsApp video, and it was just me sat in the Saffron Walden shop, and I used to try on every bra. Because no one knew what virtual bra fitting was, so I was like, right, we're going to have to see what it's like when it's on. just to be clear now, it all happens on Zoom, and I just share my screen and we look at the website, and we just have really nice model imagery, and we just have like,
can we request the other?
and all our team, if you know the brand, you'll know that, but a lot of my team model the imagery on the website and things, so it's real women, so it's easy to share your screen, looks great, you know, bish bash bosh really quick. But no, I was like, I was sat like this in front of a change room, I ran into the change room, I tried each bra and I came back and I was like, look.
This is so good. This like totally leads into my next question.
It was just ridiculous. But then it's similar to Beth, we had to sort the website out, you know, because people were kind of like, oh, I can't work out what your shipping options were, and I literally just realised that we didn't have any shipping options. It didn't make any sense, you know.
So like I was moving into kind of like the building of the community and building the business side, and my next question was, in terms of technology and marketing and branding, how have you managed to keep it personal whilst embracing some of these? You've given a really good example of trying all the bras on too.
Oh my God, yeah.
But you know, there's customer data, GDPR, there's email mail outs, there's personalised follow-ups, and I do think you've done, and I know specifically with you, the fact that you've done these personal reach outs, you've invited people in for fittings.
We haven't even sent you your follow-up yet.
Oh, you have. You have emailed me a few times, and I have I'm just terribly remiss of coming in. But yeah, it's this blend, isn't it, of kind of like personal, community, local, with the technology that you can now build. How have you managed to kind of capture this in COVID, since COVID? Have you got any other insights for people who might be founding a brand with technology?
I just think it's, you know, the service that we were offering in store, the customer service, like you want to translate that into what you're offering on Instagram or Facebook. So, you know, every customer that comes in, you we love to chat to them, and we kind of just wanted our customers to be able to interact with us, so message us on Instagram, interact with everything, so just try and be really like personable with them, and I guess so they just feel like they can reach out to us.
Do you think social has worked really strongly in your favour? Do you think it was something that took a while to harness, and how's it working at the moment?
I mean, it was great at the beginning, it's awful now.
Yeah, algorithms, and it's just a nightmare. It's really hard to grow your following and find new followers that are actually going to translate into customers for you.
Do you run your own? Do you get the teams on it? How do you manage social now with all the various platforms?
So we run our own. I mean, I think it's really important to say, if anyone is thinking about starting up a brand here now, is to not rely on one channel, not rely on Instagram, which is a lot of I think our generation, it's like our comfortable place because we use it personally, and actually there are so many other ways to reach people like this, literally talking to people in person, inviting them to an event. I'd be lucky, we feel fortunate to get 40 people like a grid post on Instagram now, and we've got 40 people in this room listening to over an hour's worth of chat about our brands. So that's way more powerful. However, the amount of time we spend thinking about what the Instagram grid looks like and what the caption's like and what filter we put on whatever. So we're really trying to think about a multifaceted approach, literally from bricks and mortar. You'll see Polaroids all around this store of real women wearing our product with price messaging that goes into our windows. We then put the Polaroids online to try and link people's eye contact with the brand on different levels. But one thing that has continuously worked really well for us is customer data. So we have always, since we started, and this is my background in marketing, stored people's name, email, mobile, where they'll be willing to leave it, and bra size information. So anything they've purchased is kept on our kind of till system. And because we have a product that people dread acquiring, when they come to the till point and we say, do you want us to keep a record of those ones that fitted? So if you are still thinking about it and you come back next time, we've got a record and you don't have to try it on. They're like, yes. And therefore we have this pocket of information, and then coupled with that we've got a loyalty scheme where, so we don't go into seasonal sale, we give 10% back on everything you spend, provided that you're signed up to GDPR. So if you spend 150 quid on a pair of pyjamas and a couple of sets or whatever, you get 15 quid in your pot. It's very tangible, you've literally got 15 pantry pounds, and we tell them that at the end of the purchase. You can redeem it once it hits 20 quid, and the idea is to just get them to kind of buy into that club where they're just getting their pantry pounds and then they've got 20 quid. It's completely transparent, it doesn't penalise one customer over another or one product over another, you're just constantly building. And I built all of that into my margin. That goes back to what I mentioned earlier, to still trade profitably without that 10%. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it's really powerful because then we send the monthly pant post. There are some on the wall. Olive made me stick those up today. She was like, we've been obviously planning it for 8 months, and we actually got them up. So that's what our monthly newsletter looks like. We try and approach it like a magazine with kind of articles and stuff on how to tell whether your bra fits. But we also just send old school non-HTML emails to people saying, and that's what Katie alluded to earlier, these follow-ups, those two over there, queens of follow-ups, to say, hey, you came in 2 weeks ago and you tried these but you didn't buy them, but you liked them and they fitted you. So just so you know, here are the links to those products and here's your loyalty balance. Oh, and by the way, can you leave us a review on Google? They get 5 quid if they get a review.
This is so rare to actually nail this.
You just have to try everything.
Yeah,
you literally have to try everything. Because the pant post in COVID, that could result in 20 sales that day on the website. It goes to over 14,000 people. But it doesn't, now it's just like Instagram. Everything is barriered. All contact digitally is barriered with people. So it It doesn't do that anymore. So then we're like, right, how can we sneak into people's inboxes in a different way? And you just have to keep trying. I mean, we're thinking about text messages.
Yeah.
So get ready, guys. We're thinking about text messages. Or WhatsApp. Yeah, so I've heard about these WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, WhatsApp groups, and
But I don't know if
I'd
I'd
have
want...
like a business
But
account.
do
for
people
WhatsApp.
want to join a WhatsApp group where you're just banging on about your
They
bras?
don't. But there'll be a kind of.
But if you text someone and you say you've not come in and had a remeasure for more than 12 months,
Yeah.
like if it's their braversary, and you say, maybe that would spark a thought.
Dentist
You know,
does
it's
that
all about getting the like
sometimes.
exactly. Or yeah, I mean, to be fair, we do a lot of appointment-based business since starting these virtual bra fittings. We do specialist bridal underwear. So obviously we have the bridal business, and we've been thinking about doing like booking software to like have text reminders or whatever. There's just so
There's so much
so
to do.
much
It's
you
just,
can
it's
do.
just having
It's-
having the time to do it and implement it and to do it well as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's hard.
You know, I was going to ask you
Expensive.
questions about building customer loyalty, but I do think you've covered that in the sense that, you know,
Do you guys have a loyalty scheme?
No, I'm just listening to you and I'm like, this is a great idea.
Take that one.
This is a great
you have to come up with
idea.
a new one now
Yeah.
because everyone in the room is doing it. But I think
It doesn't come without its challenges. It's like these silly little things, but like, for example, it's something that it's auto-enabled in our EPOS software, which is like what we use on the iPads in store. So you just flick a button and then it can apply this 10% and people's pots just grow and that's it. Annoyingly, the link between our EPOS software and our website doesn't include loyalty credit. So the customers have to contact us and then we have to create a code for the website and then we have to go back to the EPOS and exchange and to redeem the credit. It is a nightmare. Like a back of house nightmare, obviously.
Yeah.
You guys, it'll be seamless for you. But nothing is straightforward. And if you aren't a massive company that, like, obviously being the size that we are, I'm sure you've got a hosted website. Ours is just Shopify.
Oh, ours is Shopify as well.
And most small to medium-sized businesses nowadays are, but that means that you have to use bolt-ons for everything, for form bookings, for, like, our EPOS is not Shopify, because Shopify don't do sophisticated multi-site EPOS software, so we can't link it all. And literally the amount of web agencies I've been to say, how can I get my loyalty online? And they're literally like, yeah, we need to build you a website, basically. I'm like, no.
yeah. And eventually they'll have to build your website.
Yeah, they will. They will.
Eventually.
And
But
the
it's-
dream is
yeah.
for it to be completely seamless. You know,
Yeah.
you can say all these things and it sounds great, but it's extremely labour intensive
Yeah.
for, like, mainly Kat and our CS team to have to, you know, create these codes, make recommendations to people, and then go and exchange the code in our EPOS system to make sure it all balances out. Like, that's so much
It's all
work.
these kind of things that you don't realise that goes
That
on. Like,
goes on,
you know,
yeah.
both of our shops. So when we sell something in the Stamford shop, it automatically the stock gets taken off online. But Cambridge, the girls have to manually remove the stock
Oh, yeah.
from the website when we sell something.
Yeah.
So we just do it for clothing, but you know, it is such a big manual task.
No,
and
it's
you know,
exactly
there's
the
so
same.
much
Yeah.
room for
Yeah.
error as well. And like making sure the stock's right, because the last thing you want to happen is you get this amazing web order and you're like, oh shit.
That feels like every web order.
And like, and like as much as you know, you do
I know we
all these
haven't-
stock takes, all these stock takes, and it's literally the one product which is wrong that they order, and it's like, how has this happened? And it's it's
Customers seem to have a
every
knack
time.
for finding that product.
Yeah,
on the
they find
website.
that one thing.
They go to like the last page.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so what about then these small problems and the big picture? Do you want to take the bull by the horns and expand and have this empire of shops? Do these problems get in the way of that thinking? Is there a happy medium between having this beautiful boutique shop or a few shops and having a lot of shops? Like what's your thinking in that? Would you like to grow more?
I don't know, I literally change my mind every day, and it depends if like I've had a good day in the shop, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe we could expand, and you know, I'll message Beth and say, oh, you know, what do you think about, you know, this location, and but then I have a terrible day, I'm like, absolutely not, like, no. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's a difficult one. I mean, I actually opened the second shop, like, I don't know about you, but like literally I opened in Cambridge when there was no international visitors, there was no tourists, it was literally dead, and I was like, oh my god, what have I done? This is going to be a disaster. it did turn a corner and it got a lot better, but you know, for a good 6 months I was like, this is just terrible. But yeah, I don't know, I think it's like being patient, and you know, it's not going to be amazing straight away, and you have to put so much hard work into it. But yeah, I don't know, I think the more stores you have, the harder it is to make all of them the same vibe. Like even just having 2, like making sure that, you know, each shopper kind of like, you know, talking to customers the same way. They're, you know, it's so hard.
But then
so, yeah.
there are some, in hospitality, which is my expertise, you know, you'll have a couple of 2-3 sites, bloody nightmare. But if you had 10, you'd be able to have a team in between to run everything.
Yeah,
and
true.
I suppose the question is whether you want to get to that point, or if you lose control of the brand, you lose control of understanding and knowing your customer.
Well, how does that go in restaurants, do you think?
Oh, it lowers the
Definitely.
tone entirely,
Yeah.
but the people at the top make a lot more money.
Yeah.
So it's about
I think
what
there's a
their
lot
ambition
of
is.
other people though brought in at the top, aren't there? There's big investors, like Bill's is a classic example. Beautiful brands, absolutely massacred.
Yeah.
And now it's, you know, not in, yeah.
But Bill probably takes amazing holidays. But he probably
I
doesn't
think,
even work
I think,
anymore. So
I
it's,
think anyone who's founded a brand, that will be very sad for Bill.
yeah.
Like that would be, that's kind of the fear for me,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Mhm.
about
What do you
taking
think?
big
You open
investment.
Will you open more shops? Do you think?
I mean, I released my own product this year, which in underwear, which is massive in terms of like stock commitment and capital, and we took a big loan to fund that. And what I've realised doing that kind of alongside having this store as like a pop-up and then running the bridal wear business is that I am playing too many games and some of them need to have my attention, and like creating my own product in that market where you can't buy it anywhere else is a beyond privileged opportunity. And you know, opening another shop, not only would it require seeking additional funding, whether that be a loan or investment, it would mean my attention is taken away again from those projects which actually are so integral to like making the brand grow in the long term.
Yeah.
And that's really quite sad for me to say, because I'm a retailer to the bones. Like I love retail, I love training staff, I love, you know, making spaces pretty with my friend Kag. She's deserves a shout out there, because she established a lot of what this looks like in all of our locations. I love that side of it, and it's so fun. And like when we go to IKEA, it's great. And when I paint washed this wall, it was great, and I felt it was so satisfying. But like seeing a tag on the product with your brand on it, there is nothing as satisfying as that. And you know, exploring that, making the choice to have it manufactured on the other side of the world and thousands of units, I've got to commit to that choice. And that's what I kind of feel at the moment, really. And I have my own bridal wear line as well. And again, it doesn't get any of my attention because shops just take so much attention. So I don't think that I'll be opening up another shop soon. But then I say this and then someone reaches out, like an agent, and says, oh, we've got this really great unit in wherever it is, Chiswick or something. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, you know, I've been thinking about South London because I've got North London. And actually opening in Cambridge just made me realise that we can do it very quickly. And I was really precious about staff and thought I won't be able to do a fixed short-term lease without, because at the moment we're kind of, you know, here until the summer. I won't be able to do it because I won't be able to find good enough people who represent my brand right. And then I've met these great people and they're brilliant. And I've realised that we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who knows, sort of. I am going to focus on product, but who knows?
So I think during the COVID climate, there was suddenly an opening up for independent opportunities, and we saw some come through. And the agents that I dealt with were we can make some fantastic concessions for you. We really want you to be here. Green Street is a good example of how they've managed to, or they're trying to move it forwards, right?
Yeah.
But as the bigger names come back in, exactly as you say, there's really...
Well, I think Green Street's really interesting because they tried to force Green Street on us, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, it's going to be
we actually, they tried to initially force
Yeah.
Green Street on
They
us.
really tried hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I can
looking across the street,
I know.
it's only failing.
Yeah.
I think like it is repositioning in the right way, like you know, having Canoops down there and Stir going down there, like it needs established Cambridge brands where people are going to travel to it. And we are, you know, I feel like, you know, Cambridge has been a really interesting test for us because we are an established brand in Islington. We're not in Cambridge, and it was like starting afresh here in terms of like people not understanding the concept, thinking, oh, it's too expensive for me, or it doesn't go up to my size because it's pretty. And that's exactly what we've been fighting in Islington for like 8 years. And if we then had to fight that with the, you know, 25% of what the footfall is here on Green Street, it would be dire. And the rent would be a lot less, but then it's not a brand building exercise because you're not explaining yourself to as many people. So yeah, I mean, you know, Green Street is an interesting one. I think it's really well suited to food and bev and destination shopping.
Instagrammable, right?
It's beautiful.
Pedicure is a kind of graveyard of shop brands.
I mean, it's got Tesco's,
right?
Yeah.
and it
But
was
it's-
like a shopping
It's
mecca.
a thoroughfare, lots of people.
Yeah.
And so there hasn't been as much movement in terms of rent reductions and everything. So trying to do something new. So Green Street is a testing ground, and just like probably this is, you know, just show the success and the interest in this side.
Yeah.
It's fantastic for Cambridge. And
Yeah.
it's like, so what does Cambridge need? If anybody here is trying to,
More
right,
independent.
but do people
And
support
also
this?
more like curation.
Yeah.
Like it really needs to be more concentrated. You know, like just having, you know, I know lots of people are really excited about the popcorn chicken place. It's just opened next to Sweaty Betty. I'm not Sweaty Betty.
They must be outraged about that.
Oh, I would be outraged.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
Broke your legs.
because of that.
I mean, it's just so like. I mean, I dread to think what's going to go into the old Oasis that was a mobile phone shop. I mean, even the 3 shop there that's like that kind of like.
Cambridge has turned into a market town. It's not interesting to come into.
No,
anymore,
it's not. It's
and
not like
for
a
the
city.
pricing,
Yeah,
it's not interesting.
it's not like a city. It doesn't feel like a city in terms of like, you know, what each corner of it represents, because each corner is completely confused. Yeah, it's just a bit. It's all a bit confusing.
Yeah.
And it makes it very difficult to choose the right store location in Cambridge, to be honest, like as a retailer. You know, when I worked in Cambridge, not in the underwear shops, I worked in a jewellery shop, which was like just where like TK Maxx is now. And there was like June there, and then we had a jewellery shop, and then next door there was Jigsaw, and it was, and now it's just all food and bev, or like very cheap mobile phone shop, random.
Yeah.
Like definitely some sort of like
Money laundering.
laundering situation. And then opposite there's like, you know, some taco place that went bust like 2 years ago that's still boarded up with metal boarding. It's just very confused.
Yeah, completely. I think we all feel this way, and I think there was a shift in the market with COVID. Now we're sort of sadly moving back into this situation we thought we might not find ourselves in again. So what can we do? Obviously, kind of in some ways we're enlightened consumers. There obviously are enough people to support businesses like that they continue to come back. So if you're, do we speak to the council? Do we vote with our feet? Like, how do we?
Everyone needs to send
can
Barry
we
an
do?
email.
Barry's
email address.
Like, what's the potential? Like, how can we? Is there anything that we can do to improve the situation in Cambridge, or do we just wait?
I mean, you know, it's like, well, it makes me like cringe a little bit, this phrase, but you do need to like vote with your money, really. You get what you put in, get out what you put in. So if you're looking for those shops that are doing more interesting things and investing in those specifically over other, like Taco Bell, for example, then, you know, great.
Yeah.
And those shops will stick around, and more of them will come through because they'll see that those shops are doing well.
Yeah.
Like that's how a lot of shops plan where they're going to go next, is they look at, like, you'll notice that, for example, Sweaty Betty often crop up right next door to Oliver Bonus, like in loads of neighbourhoods in
And
London.
Space and K.
And Space and K, they follow
Yeah.
each other around because they're kind of looking, they're literally following each other's like property strategy. So, yeah.
So then, would you have advice for people who are trying to found a brand in Cambridge? Cambridge is their starting point. They want to open a shop or create a brand in Cambridge. Should they be mirroring other brands that they like in Cambridge? Is that a tactic? Is there a tactic in Cambridge for success? Having you being on the Market Square now, like
Cambridge is really hard to get a shop in a prime location. So you have to have a concept that's totally unique that people are going to make the journey for. It's much easier to do that in, for example, food and bev or experience, like an optician, like a super. I want to use the word wanky, but wanky opticians, and where all about like the experience. You need to have some kind of brand hook like that. You can't necessarily just be doing something that exists but better and trying to build your brand in that way. Like literally people need to be like, I booked an appointment to go there, or I have to try that new hot chocolate from there because I just love them on Instagram or whatever, so I'm going to go there. Because the prime locations, they just aren't available in Cambridge. And there's FYI.
And there's a waiting list as well.
There's a massive waiting list.
Yeah.
The agents, they just won't reply to your emails if they don't think that if you're not in the first quarter of the waiting list, or they don't think you're prepared to make. So for us, for example, we've offered on a few properties. If we're not offering high enough, we just won't be approached by. Even if we would have offered higher for those other properties, there's too much demand.
So if you were to open another shop, same with me, I definitely wouldn't open in a city again. Definitely not. I'd do another market town.
Would you?
Stamford.
No, I absolutely would not.
I
I did a market town before here.
I wouldn't do another city again.
How was that for you then?
I mean, it was like an eighth of the price, which is great. And at some point, I will move my bridal wear business back there.
Just as context though, where
were
you?
Saffron Walden,
yeah, so the
which
context
is where I live.
Yeah.
And I've got a beautiful shop there, and it's massive, and it's dirt cheap. And we've made it look beautiful. And we've made it look beautiful.
That's how I knew about you. Is initially from Saffron Walden. That's how I knew you.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, good. Okay, so how did you hear about
we have kept the shop there, guys. So
did you hear about the pantry in Cambridge the first time you ever heard of it? Put your hand up if it's the first time you've ever heard of it in Cambridge, the pantry. Okay.
Today.
Okay. And you'll be coming back Christmas, Thursday, every time. Okay, how about you first heard about it in London? Anybody first heard about it in London? Great. And Saffron Walden?
Slash
Spread.
at home. That's a good spread. It is a good spread. I mean, anywhere that you open a shop is very good for brand building. Like, absolutely. And that goes back to that whole customer data piece, is that anyone, even if you only have 4 people visiting a day, if you've then got them in your ecosystem, that is valuable. Even if they don't buy anything, they just try things on and you keep their successful fit, you then have opened a conversation with them, from my perspective, from the way that we run our business. But yeah, I if anything, I'm the opposite to Beth in this situation. Is like, I'm thinking about opening shops to specifically build the brand. So I'd go bigger than Cambridge. So I'd like South London, for example, having a touch point in South London or Manchester, or because I need underwear is very,
I guess especially if you've got your own brand.
and underwear is just an intimidating product type for a lot of people. So in order to get people to even cross your threshold, you need a massive mix of demographic. And although Cambridge does have a mix of demographic, it's not as cosmopolitan as like London. I get all different ages, all different backgrounds, all different professions, and I need that to grow the brand.
Yeah.
Because we get that in Stamford, and I know it sounds crazy, and it's a market town, but everyone that lives there, it's like they really support all the independents in town,
so
and they
good.
make a conscious effort to come in and spend with us, and they're so loyal. I don't know how many.
What was difficult for us in Saffron Walden is that there's another underwear shop.
Oh, okay. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it sells completely different products, and there's definitely room for both shops in the market, but not everybody saw it that way. So
I think it's a different product.
it's
though.
a totally different product.
You can stock out on underwear and it will do you for the next 10 years. You can't do that with clothes. So there is a different loyalty
It's totally
to
different.
do that. So you need to go broader and wider.
Bigger.
And your
Yeah,
pop-up in Liberty was just the best. And doing pop-ups for knickers and bras
Yeah, and
lingerie
doing
is
this has
great.
been brilliant because it's made me realise that we can do it.
Mm.
You know, Liberty was 4 years in the end, like it was a long, and through COVID as well. And it was brilliant, particularly for customer data and things like that. But and bringing in new customers to the brand. But doing this has been a lot shorter term, and knowing that we can do this and turn it around, we literally fitted it out in 2 weeks. You know, it just makes you think, well, the world's our oyster. So in terms of like shop strategy, I will definitely do this approach in future, because actually this is an interesting point. I've always found when I've approached agents about leases, no matter where it is, and I've looked at shops in St Albans, various pockets of South London, obviously Cambridge, and they all want a 10-year lease with a 5-year break, and that is a massive commitment. You know, if it doesn't work and you're signed up for 5 years, you know.
I've got 10 years with a 5-year,
As do I in Islington. But to be offered this place and to just essentially be 4 months, then you can extend it, then it's rolling with a month's notice, you know, you kind of are like, well.
Yeah, you need to take that. Cambridge shifted
To test.
to be able to do
I
that.
was so surprised that this was just that, you know, that this was just a pop up, that you'd managed to like negotiate that. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I just wasn't prepared again to sign a long-term lease without knowing that it was the right place for the brand to be.
And the strength of the brand then means that you can take those terms, and that is where the first time brand builder is not able to assert themselves. But with those lessons, like do one test point, and next time you'll have like the credibility to be able to negotiate something, because you can do better, but not the first
Yeah,
time.
I think
It's a
proof of concept is really important for any business. Like just showing that what you're doing is valid. So if you can, it's not easy, and it's not necessarily easier in the long term, but to start like a website and an Instagram and a TikTok nowadays, and potentially do pop-ups in, for example, other people's shops or restaurant spaces or whatever. Like there's, in Saffron Walden, there's a new kind of like, basically 2 women from the town have set up a like rental platform called Neon Leo. And they did an opening party at like the kind of new like restaurant in town, and they sold it out, and you know, paid tickets, and there were like 50 women there, and they were all like looking at their garments. And obviously like our businesses are quite deeply rooted in bricks and mortar, but that is a good way of testing how it works in person, but not risking all of the overheads, because there are so many overheads, like having staff, reliable staff, you know, and remunerating them appropriately. You know, that means pensions, holiday, sick pay, everything else, plus, you know, business rates, rent, oh my god, electricity. Does not have the same caps for businesses as it does for personal use. So it's so expensive that I think if you can prove that your concept works and your brand works without opening a shop first, you'll probably be in a strong position to kind of choose a better shop.
Yeah.
The amount of businesses that do fail when they do open is pretty high. And I think it is just going into that, like, you know, a lot of people don't realise like how many costs there are involved. It is just eye-wateringly high.
That's true, and I think that brings us back to the kind of initial questions we were talking about. Like, do you try and find a brand, or do you try and find an area of need? You know something's going to work, you feel it's going to work, you don't have to canvas everybody, because you know that this is something people need. So anyone who's trying to found a brand now, rather than thinking like, oh, electricity prices, rent, Cambridge, fucking nightmare, could be like, I know these guys can do it. I've got this specific idea. I'm going to meet an area of need. I can speak to people like you to get some advice, and I might have to negotiate on some sketchy terms originally. I might have to get the site that I didn't really want, but next time I might be able to have a pop-up in the market square, and I might be able to pop in restaurants, and I can build a mailing list, and there are all of these different things that they can kind of, all these threads that they can pull together, like, you know, and times change, you know, rates might decrease, rents might decrease, like the market square might open itself up like Green Street has. So there is opportunity, right, for people who are trying to find these
and
brands.
I think that's the exciting thing, like you don't just have to open a shop, like there's so many things you can do, which is exciting if you are starting a brand.
Absolutely. So I think it's a good place to sort of ask the floor now if anyone's got any questions, whether that's about finances or founding a business or creating a brand in terms of, we haven't talked much about that, the branding, like the design, the creative, we haven't talked much about that, but I don't know if anybody wants to found a brand here or anyone's got any personal or questions that have been brought up in the discussion. You want to raise your hand? Hi.
You said you created your own product. I just wondered what it was.
CAG.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Saturn contour.
my lovely assistant over there. So yeah, we've released our first like family of bras and knickers. So there's 2 bras, 2 knickers, and then we've got 2 more families to come over the next few months. But they're like 3 years in the pipeline.
Wow.
So waiting a long time. So with bras, because they're risky, I obviously alluded to this earlier, you have to manufacture a lot of units per product for the factory to even consider working with you.
How many units can we ask?
Yeah, 1,000 units
1,000 units.
per style.
That's a lot.
Because how many sizes are there?
Across the sizes, not per size.
Yeah, how many sizes
Oh,
are
there are 1,032Ds. No, there are not. And as you know, we did negotiate it down a bit because we are a small company, but that is the standard. And you know, big companies are looking at minimums of like £4,000, so 4,000 units. So yeah, it's a lot. So in those bras, there are one of them's got I think 28 sizes, and the other one's got 34 or something like that.
One really important point to make here is that we talked about building an Instagram audience, say 40 likes in a post. You've got this number of people in a room now who know that you've made that product, and when you're going to bring out the next product, everyone in this room is actually genuinely interested to know what it looks like and will probably try it on.
Yeah,
And some people in
I
this
hope
room
so.
will buy your next product.
I hope so.
And they probably wouldn't if you said, "Hello Instagram, I made a product," and 40 people liked it. And
Yeah, I
and
mean,
that is the power of
that's
getting
a
people in the room.
massive,
Yeah.
you know, stock risk. And we've been very fortunate. We've got a stockist in Vienna in Austria, and we're in conversation with a couple of other stores about stocking it. Actually, interestingly, I don't feel like, oh, you know, I really want to get it in Selfridges or I really want to get it in Marks and Spencer's, because I don't think they'll represent my brand. So in London, we've got a couple of women's wear boutiques who are interested in taking it, where we will go in and train their staff on how to fit it and just test it. So again, we're just testing something completely new, but I think that their team will not be trying to sell loads of other bras, because there won't be the other bras there, and they have a much more consultative approach than most of our competitors in the underwear industry, and therefore I think they'll do a better job, to be honest. So already, even with that side of the business, we're taking a completely different approach to what other people, like what traditionally you would have done. If you were going to build a wholesale model, you'd be like, right, I'm going to email every underwear shop in the UK. But I just don't think that's necessarily right, because the aesthetic is not necessarily what you would expect or want to see in a standard underwear shop.
Questions? Anyone?
Kind of touched on how you feel this is so much more powerful than an Instagram post. Do you feel that sort of the gravitas, I suppose, of having a strong social media presence is lacking? Or like something I find with my business is I hate the social media side. I put so much pressure on myself and I don't know how to do it. I don't know what I should be putting
What
up. Because
sector is your business in?
so I'm a children's entertainer. Looking at you, mums. I'm a children's entertainer.
What's the name of the business?
Oh, Big Red Door.
Okay.
Thank you. So, and I find it quite hard to market my product, because my product is me entertaining children. And I touched on this a bit earlier, is that because I'm marketing to mums, essentially, I can't go on there and be a kids entertainer and that be interesting content for people. So trying to find the balance. Is there any point in doing it when actually doing a party where I've got 30 kids in the room and other mums look at me and be like, wow, she's really good, hopefully. Should I bother with social
Can
media?
I answer
or
that? 'Cause
Oh,
I have
please do.
this.
So many
Can I
facets
answer
to
that?
this.
So it's completely right that, you know, at the beginning we used to do a static grid post and then hundreds of people would see it and it'd be great. Now you've got to have videography, you've got to have the skills, you've got to have someone there. It's expensive and time consuming and it might not feel like it's worth it. However, if somebody goes to your event, they might then be trying to look you up on social. So yes, you do need to be on social, but it's about how much investment you put into that. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You know, if you could set up. I think there is one here, just like this. You could set this up, and you could have one at your shows, and you could just crop it down. And you're not paying anyone to do that. You just invested in a light ring and a phone, and you can put it up in your stories. You might want to promote it once a month for £100 on Facebook or social ads. But mums like me who are, I don't know, going home and then breastfeeding a baby and we've just been to a party might then scroll, and it also affects your SEO on Google. So I would say yes, because the content, you are creating content all the time. Like your business, your performance is your content. So yes.
What other marketing are you doing?
Nothing. And also it's mainly social media, and then I've got my own website, and that's it. And then only just talking to other mums at the preschool.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I genuinely think, like, when you've got a concept like that just requires knowledge within a specific community of, you know, a sector, i.e. mums or whatever, you just need to you need the virality to go. But people, like kids parties, people search for those. So every single person you do a party for, you should get them to do a Google review.
Yeah.
So we get loads of basically marketing traffic to our website for bridal underwear, and general bra fittings as well. If people search bra fitting Cambridge, already we would appear in the rankings because we probably get like 3 or 4 reviews a week. And organic engagement on Google is so much more powerful than paid for. So if people are genuinely going there and writing, I had a great bra fitting in the Cambridge branch of Pantry Underwear, someone then searches the Pantry Underwear, just like I booked this amazing kids party in Debden or wherever you are. Where are you? Saffron Walden, perfect. In Saffron Walden, and I used these guys. But you obviously do you have a business profile on Google? So you need to set up a business profile.
Tomorrow.
It's free.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of like you said.
It's free. It's easy. I think you have got a bit of a challenge in the sense that you know, capturing content, for example, at the parties, you obviously have to get people's permission or whatever.
Yeah.
So advocacy is a good place to start. Have you thought about gifting any parties to any like mum influencers?
I did a raffle for the preschool and somebody won the party. Do you mean that kind of thing?
No, I mean going after mum influencers.
Oh.
Because that has been really, and I know that sounds terrifying and like you're going to have to stump up 500 quid or something. You're not. It's for them to post about it. If you write a really lovely message, you explain that you're an independent business and that you're not great at marketing, they will, there are influencers in this room that heard my plea and they're here again the second time because
Do you have kids?
because we made friends, and sometimes it is about opening, you know, because they're going to get good content out of it, and obviously they will then work with bigger brands having seen that your party brand worked with them and they created this content or whatever. If they can get a party out of it for their kids, the chances are that they already share their kids on social media if they are a mum influencer, and therefore they'll be prepared to do a reel about their party.
Email me afterwards. I'll give you the 20 people that could do that. Those people are there.
And so just pick a, you know, it's a lot. I'm sure it'd be a lot for you to put on a free party, but pick a couple that you get, open the conversation with 10 of them, and if you like a couple of them, then they're the ones that you offer the free party to. And that, you know, people advocating it and talking about your services to another audience is really powerful, but also creating content for you so you don't have to think of how to create it is really useful. The other thing that we find effective, are you prepared to talk to the camera?
Yes.
You're a performer.
Well, yeah. But
So
you're grown up.
Do you dress up every time?
Do I dress up?
Do you, when you're doing the parties, are you the entertainer? Are you like Elsa?
I'm Captain Fun. Oh, I'm not princesses. I'm my own. I'm Captain Fun.
So you've got your own character.
Yeah.
That is
I
amazing.
think I think I've seen what you do.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've got loads of ideas.
Brainstorm.
Just another follow-up question as well. Sorry if I'm taking up too much time. So like I said, my business name is Big Red Door, and it came just from I can't even remember where it came from, but I have developed this Captain Fun character, and I feel that's how I'm becoming known, is Captain Fun.
So it's going to be Captain Fun Parties then.
So do I need to change my name? Because I think it's a question I've had.
I feel like Big Red Door if you, like, my honest impression is like, it maybe is like a insurance company or something. It makes me feel like it's that brand is already out in the market. Like, have you actually Googled, does Big Red Door exist?
No. Well, I mean, it does for me.
For you, but
Yeah.
nowhere else. I just feel like I've heard it before in a
Yeah.
completely unrelated industry. Like, it doesn't say children's. I mean, the Pantry Underwear doesn't say pants, unless you think about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, underwear does, but the pantry, people are like, why pantry? And I'm like, think about it for a second, hun.
Yeah. I think it's just me. I was having to accept that I've got to swivel a bit, because I think when I first started, it was supposed to be a branch of things. So I was going to do lots of different things, and actually, where it's grown organically, people want Captain Fun, and that's what it is.
I think also the fact you've established Captain Fun, you touched on something really interesting at the beginning, which is where you said, I don't have a product, the product is me, and the experience. And I really have struggled with that over the years, because I'm like, if I send a product to an influencer, they're going to be like, this is, you know, whatever the brand name is from the Pantry Underwear, and the customer, particularly in this world post-COVID, is going to be like, ooh, what's that brand? They're not going to be thinking, what's the Pantry Underwear? But you have got to believe in, you know, what your product is, and even if it isn't like a physical, tangible product, Captain Fun is a product, and you've now made that. Big Red Door maybe not so much, because like you say, it encapsulates all of these, but Captain Fun is like such a tangible thing. Like, you can build a brand around that, and you've still obviously got the experience aspect, but you've really kind of built a character, and you could have merchandise. You could do all sorts of things.
I am loving this. Let's follow up on our one-to-one. Let's like do a coffee and like a. I can bring some children to it. Has anyone else got any questions? Yeah.
So I have an idea, but I've come to a point of finance is the issue for me. I won't be touched with a barge pole by a loan company. Do you have investors that you could recommend? I know you said you don't use investors, but I need the money.
I can recommend a couple that when I was going to open the Cambridge shop, that basically I got my business loan, and then during COVID they offered these bounce back loans. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the bounce back loan to pay off my business loan. So I now have my bounce back loan, which the interest is so low. It's brilliant. But then when I wanted to get a new business loan for the Cambridge shop, they were like, no, we'll only give you the money if you go back to your normal loan without it being a bounce back loan. So I was like, oh God.
The recovery loan then? You went for a recovery loan after bounce back?
No, so Lloyds Bank were basically like, we'll give you a new loan, but the bounce back loan, the money needs to go in the new loan and at a much higher rate. So I was like, I'm absolutely not going to do that, because it was they then wanted to like personally guarantee it to me and my house, and I was like, absolutely not. My accountant then recommended some people that I could chat to get money, but actually in the end it was quite a long process that I just funded it myself through cash in the bank.
What kind of sector are you looking at? Is this hospitality, retail, or?
I would like to do underwear.
No, of course not. Very different. Retail.
I think I would love to obviously have a little shop one day, but I imagine starting it online. But I've got, you know, the logo so far, the designs and everything. I've contacted the London Pattern Company, I think they're called, but it's just, I went travelling and spent all the money. I didn't enjoy it either. So now I'm just sitting on this idea that I feel I really know what I want, but like how much am I looking?
There's actually a couple of really good points here. So it's a bad time to borrow money right now.
Right.
Interest rates are really high, and literally that's so different to what it was 5 or 6 months ago. So thirsty. Because there was a kind of boom in lending post-COVID, because the government was guaranteeing loans and putting money behind helping businesses to recover. So we took a bounce back loan similarly, and then from the same bank took a recovery loan. Which
I didn't know about the recovery loan.
Which was like an additional scheme that they then released afterwards and extended.
I know.
Well, I think it's a bit naughty of Lloyds not to say.
Oh yeah.
There's this additional scheme, and you were allowed to do both, and actually neither of them required a personal guarantee, which was the other thing that I was going to say, is that
If you can avoid doing a personal guarantee,
you mustn't,
like,
you just mustn't. At the
yeah,
beginning, you
definitely
just
not.
mustn't. Like, you just don't,
It's too much
so
of a risk.
risky.
Is that, do they base it on your personal, years and years ago I got an IVA, so my credit score is atrocious.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have any opportunity of getting any kind of loan.
No, because it's
For a
not
few
based on
years.
it's not based on your personal credit
Okay.
score.
On
And
your
also
But they do
They
look
do
at
do-
your bank
they do look
statements,
at your-
though.
yeah, they
They
do.
do look at your
Right.
bank
Are
statements.
you-
So I would just say, like,
Terrible.
you know, the months leading up to it, just make sure that you're, you know, a bit more
Yeah.
careful with your spending, because they do, like when you're getting a mortgage, they just look at everything.
But who do you do your like regular day-to-day banking with?
Santander.
Yeah, well, you should. They're actually really good with
Right.
supporting new businesses and small businesses. Like they do a lot of like pop-ups in their branches and stuff.
Mhm.
So just have a conversation with them. You shouldn't just because you've had an IVA just rule yourself out.
I say, what can I do? Like, I would like just in the future, what can I do now in order to in the future
Because
do
the thing
it
is,
and
with
give you the answers?
thing is with investment, unless you've got a super sassy tech idea, it's difficult to just go for like standard investors. Like, you know, you need to be doing the next like Bumble. And I don't believe that that's what you need to be doing. I think you can do something that already exists, but just do it better and do it in a more refined way, or do it with better branding, or present it in a better way. That's what both of us do. You know, multi-brand women's wear stores existed before, and multi-brand underwear stores existed before. They just didn't exist like ours. But it is harder to get investment based on that, which is kind of ridiculous because the concept's already proven. But you know, it's all about for a lot of investors looking for like the big capital gain in the long run, and therefore the kind of more risky, like sexy opportunities. I have this ongoing thing with my dad about how like essentially unsexy my underwear business is, but from a like investment perspective, it's like, you know, what direction are you going in? Oh, you've got 2 shops, so what? Where's your innovation? And so it is important to think about that. And you know, it's not.
I would just go and have a few chats with,
there's not a dragon's
few
den.
bank managers, and
Yeah,
you know, just get some feedback, and so you know.
and start with your own bank, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if the IVA was a long while ago and you're okay now, they're going to know that, they can see that, and you know they're going to want to give their customers a chance.
Yeah.
And I very much felt that from my bank.
That's such a good question. I think a lot of people would be thinking similar things. So
Yeah.
thanks for that. That's really good.
No problems.
You all know my financial issue. Yeah.
Luckily you're at the front.
Yeah.
No one mugged me. I've
Probably
got
a lot of
nothing.
people are in that boat, can you imagine? Right?
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely, yeah.
people probably are there.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
anybody else?
You both talked a little bit about the sort of vibe that you've got in your stores. How did you come to that with your brands? Did you sort of see that at the beginning? Has it been a journey for you? Like, how did you build the experience?
I think like literally just from going into so many shops and being like, oh my god, literally I've just walked into here and no one's even said hello to me. It's just, you know, it's cold, or the lighting's bad, the music's horrible, like how they've like, you know, visual merchandise. So yeah, just going out and getting an idea for, you know, what everyone else is doing. And also just thinking about like what the experience I want when I walk into a shop, and, you know, trying to make sure that everyone that comes through the door, they leave happier when they, you know, when they're leaving. So, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, I think all of the above. I guess like people don't really like going into underwear shops, just full stop, because they hate having bra fittings and whatever. So we really had to do something where we were presenting underwear in a way that it's not presented at the moment. So there's no mannequins in here, apart from that one with the wedding dress on, but that doesn't count. Because mannequins don't represent breast tissue, and bras look strange on mannequins, to be honest. So we use things like anything like, you know, we call this the boob wall, but like, you know, we use a soft pink, not a solid pink, because a solid pink would be too immature, but a soft pink to bring character and friendliness. And then, you know, anything from using like the like natural leather straps and the kind of beech wood and stuff was all about desexualizing the product. Because if you go into it, what people think of when they think of independent underwear shops is like a chaise longue, you know, and like, you know, someone forcing you to try on a bra as soon as you come through the door. So we really had to change our approach completely. Like, you know, we have either History or Heat Radio, so like throwback noughties anthems all day. And we have these ridiculous boards outside that say like, "Booby, it's cold outside," and all these amazing things. What was the New Year one?
Tit
Tit Tit Hooray. Like, just so many great ones.
Tinsel tits.
Yeah, tinsel tits.
Everyone
like,
was taking pictures.
yeah, people take,
Everyone.
and like that's such a small thing. But when I changed, it was the first shop in Islington, the A board from like, it used to have all the brand logos on it that we stocked, and that was it. And then we changed it to categories, so it's like maternity, hosiery. I mean, who uses the word hosiery? Sports, blah 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 blah. When we changed it to the changeable board with like the silly messages, the footfall like changed. It just changed. And like even my first store, I had it half frosted, halfway over the windows. Mum and Cag will remember this. It was a bit weird and seedy, but I did it for privacy, so that when you looked in the windows, people didn't feel like they were being watched when they were browsing. But actually, it just made people even more intimidated because they were like, "What the hell is going on behind there?" So as soon as I ripped that off, like suddenly it all changed. So yeah, you know, you don't plan it and get the direction right before you open. You do have to constantly make tweaks.
And I think it's hard as well until you've opened and you've got people actually coming into your shop. You don't know like what's going to work and what's not. So you kind of have to just tweak things along the way.
Yeah, there are just so many things to think about, like, you know, whether you display price messaging, what sizes you put on display. Like, if we only have 2 of a bra on display, we want to have like, let's say the bra runs from like D to like double G cup. We want to have a double D and a G cup so that people can see that there's that kind of depth in sizing. And that's something else obviously we've introduced with those Polaroids, is saying like D to G cups, because like I said to you, there's all of these like assumptions from looking outside in. You know, oh, they won't do my size, oh, I can't afford it. So I always make sure that there's one of them like at least mid-price bras in the window, like 34 quid. Anyone can afford that.
I think we have the same thing. People, especially in Cambridge, they just assume that you're going to be an expensive shop and they like don't dare come in. But actually, so many people come in and like, wow, I can buy a t-shirt for £14, and they're really surprised.
Yeah, so like I want to open up to more questions, but I thought if we've got 15 minutes left on the event, it might be good for us to kind of stand up and have some private questions. Unless anyone wants to make a public question to the room, maybe we could have a drink, glass of water, a chat, and just kind of mingle and have some one-to-one things. Unless anyone wants to direct anything to the room now. No? Okay, so in which case then,
Can we
shall
just
we say
say
thank you?
Yeah, we just want to say a quick thank you to Lime Bay Winery.
Yes.
Susie! Can you just stand up and give us like, come on, give us the like 30 second.
Give you a little 30 seconds.
Yeah,
so
go on.
we're an English winery. We're based down in Devon. Got an empty glass, sorry. Based down in Devon. We grow most of our grapes in Essex, so we're not too far away. Really, it's a really lovely place to work, is what I want to say. We're not a big company. There's about 30 members of staff, so we're a very small team. We're very new into the company. I mainly look after London, but Cambridge also falls under that. And it's a really great place. We're mainly known for still wines. Our Pinot Noir red is our sort of flagship wine. Don't find many English reds, certainly not good ones. I'm very proud of ours. We've won many awards for it as well. But the sparkling is really, and I think it's
How
really
much
nice.
is, what's the retail price on this?
It depends where you buy it.
Oh, right.
Sorry,
you buy it?
sorry to say, because we're not allowed to set pricing.
Yeah.
Who stocks it?
So you can buy this at Cambridge Wine Merchants.
Great.
Your local, and the Cambridge Cheese Company are about to. Their delivery's on the way to them. I haven't had notification it's arrived, so I'm assuming that's going to be Monday or tomorrow. So you will find it locally, and I'm hoping a few more places sort of locally will start. Now that we've actually got someone on the ground. Cambridge Wine in Royston as well, they stock it. They all have slightly different stocking, so you'll find different things.
Oh, and
in
if you're
places.
Saffron Water based, Joseph Barnes. No? Yes? Joseph?
But if Joseph is available, listening to this, I'm all here. No, it's Charles, isn't it? But yeah, on
Oh yeah, it's just
Um,
called that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's work in progress. I mean, we supply admins as well, so you can actually buy their English that's us. So.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. If anybody is